haunts me forever. Welcome, Facebook Live. We're going to have so many followers watching us. I'm just warning you guys. This is mine, by the way, not yours.
Oh,
I brought like a car thing for yours because I couldn't find a second one. But I'm very grateful that you're all here.
I have more followers than you, so put mine
Tonight is a very, very, very... I know, we should. You know what? We're going to need a volunteer. Who wants to volunteer?
How much engagement?
He has 1 million followers. 1 million.
Are you verified?
Oh, he's verified.
Verified?
Who wants to hold it? Who's going to be the brave woman or man? Oh my god, no one's volunteering. That's so sad.
I'll volunteer to distribute.
Pages. Who just said that?
Facebook
What's your name?
Facebook
Moshe, of course. The Moshe volunteers. The Moshes are always brave. Okay. We're just going to do, we're just going to do Quench event. Because this is a special event. The
Do you mind
Electrifying.
passing one of those
It's so
cups
funny.
down?
I had Start Live video. Hold on. Hold on. Okay.
Thank you.
Can you just put it on me? And when my dad comes on. So basically,
No, I need one more
everyone-
share. It's the coolest little HD camera.
tonight is the very first Thirsty Souls Quench event.
Anyone like high tech?
You want water? Oh, yes, please. That's seltzer, actually, but I'll take either
Why are
one.
you doing that, though?
Okay, quiet in the court. Is that, did I just make that up? Okay, anyways, tonight is the very first Thirsty Souls Quench event. No one leaves this house without going on Facebook and liking the Thirsty Souls. I teach Torah online. Oh my God, sorry. I'll take my water now. Anyways, welcome.
Move it, Charles.
My father sorry, you should be sitting in the kingly chair. Let's switch.
It's okay.
Okay, my father, is probably the busiest person that I know. He is the hardest working person that I know, and I've said this on Facebook before, I don't know that a young woman has ever looked up to her father the way I look up to mine.
That's nice.
And I really...
Then why don't you treat me that way?
I do. He's just saying that. I do. I really want to share him with you guys.
You
and
told
he
me
has...
you never want to talk to me
It's
again.
not true.
forever and
I
ever.
follow my dad. I'm the biggest nerd. I'd rather be with him than with any... Sorry, guys. With anyone else. We could talk forever, and we do. And he's so busy with politics and fighting for Israel, and he used to be really into the sex world, the relationship world, and it really helped people. You really changed people's lives. I went to Australia for a week. I had people coming over to me because they recognized me because I look like my mother, and they said, your father saved my marriage. I never met him, I never spoke to him, but I read his book and he saved my marriage. And I think that we're not, young people, especially us Jews, we're not only just in pain, a lot of us are in pain. I think everyone's kind of in some kind of pain or whatever, but we're also just confused. And God made a promise to his people a very, very, very long time ago that he would bring Mashiach, and Mashiach's not here yet. And this isn't just because I'm a Lubavitcher and I'm a Chabadnik and I look up to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This is because keeping Shabbos or trying to keep kosher or trying to live a sexually healthy life, it all goes hand in hand with being close to God and bringing Mashiach. It goes hand in hand. If you believe in Shabbos, you believe that Mashiach's going to come. And tonight is a very special night. It was Yom HaShoah today. I try not to talk about it because we went on a harrowing 2-month trip in Poland. My father took me and it created some tension. We had some tumultuous times, but I haven't healed from it yet. We went to horrible, horrible places, so I didn't want to talk about it. And so what I do want to talk about is that tonight the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave over, and I don't just look up to the Lubavitcher Rebbe because he's some magic man who performed miracles. I've never in my life encountered a human being that was so incorruptible, Tati, like you always say, that was so giving, that was so caring. He didn't leave New York State for 40 years. He just wanted to bring Mashiach, and he usually was giving people chizuk. He was always my father, I'm obsessed with my dad. I love him, so I'm going to talk about him a lot, and he's my hero.
But your father just wants you to find a nice husband and be obsessed with him.
So do I. We have so many eligible young men in the room. No, I'm kidding. But
It's gonna be hard to pick.
they're gonna have to get in line. No, I'm kidding. But usually my father came from a very dysfunctional background, and I actually wanted to do some kind of talk about that because he is literally the story, not rags to riches, but unhealthy to the greatest father, husband, human being that I've ever encountered. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe kind of helped him on that path. And tonight is Chav Ches Nisan. It's the 28th of the Hebrew month of Nisan, which is the month of freedom. And usually Lubavitch Rebbe, like he did for my father, he was filled with positivity and light and do more mitzvos and get out of your comfort zone and Mashiach's coming and just do a little bit more good, do more mitzvos, light Shabbos candles, put tefillin on, be good to your mother, be good to your father, be good to your wife, your husband. And for the first time ever, and the only time ever, he gave the most haunting, harrowing, somewhat depressing speech that lasted for about 2 minutes that he's ever given in his life. And he said, everything I've done is for nothing. He would die 3 years later and he would lose his ability to speak a few months later. He said, everything I've done is for nothing because Mashiach's not here. He said, I've done everything I can possibly do, and there's nothing more I can do for you. And he literally, word for word, he said, I'm putting it in your hands. And I love this. There's this movie. I said this on Facebook Live. Sorry, Facebook Livers, you're watching this for a second time. My favorite movie of all time, not just because Josh Hartnett is the perfect man, but Black Hawk Down. I've watched it 30,000 times. And there's this scene where the third Black Hawk is like swirling down and down and down. Everyone's getting the hell out of it. Mogadishu? Everyone's getting the hell out because everyone's being killed and massacred. No one brought water or suntans or whatever. They didn't think it was going to be anything. The third Black Hawk is spinning and spinning and spinning, and the pilot's going crazy, and he crashes, and everyone in the plane, in the helicopter, dies besides him. And he calls the general. He says, "Where is the rescue mission? Where's the rescue team?" And they said, "We can't send anyone to you because everyone's running for their lives." And the two soldiers on it really is so moving to me. It's such a good movie. The two soldiers on the helicopter say, "We're going to get him." And the general said, or whatever, the chief general, whatever, I don't know military terms, he said, there's no way you're going. It's a suicide mission. You're not going to make it out of there. All of the forces have left. They're going back to base. They said, we're not leaving him behind. And he said, you won't come back alive. And they said, we're going anyways. So they drop off these two guys, and there's this seminal moment where this guy is stuck, bleeding, his face is all puffy, and he's bleeding to death, and he's crushed in this Black Hawk, and these two soldiers are running towards him to come and save him. And he goes like, where the hell is the rescue team? This guy says to these two soldiers, we're coming to, they are the rescue. And there's this one moment, and they're so silent, and they say, we're it. And like, his face just falls. We're it. We're the rescue team. There's no one else coming. And eventually those two guys die, and historically the third guy is captured and then released later, I think 2 months later. But when the Lubavitch Rebbe said that he's handing it, it's so scary. And Tati, you told me you were listening to it, I think, on a phone hookup. He said, there's nothing else I can do. I'm handing it over to you. And 2 years ago on Pesach, we had a Mashiach Seudah. My father will eternally be embarrassed for me about this. I got so drunk. I had like 8 cups of wine. And in front of like these like stuffy, wealthy, like 800, or I think it was like 400 people, I started yelling and screaming and throwing things and saying, no one cares, Mashiach will never come, God doesn't care about us. And the next morning I woke up, was humiliated, I couldn't see out of my eyes, they were all puffy, I was like a puffball. And it took, those next few months, I was wondering I kept looking around who's going to help us? Where am I going to find salvation? Where am I going to find content? How am I going to feel satisfied? Is it going to be romantic love? Is it going to be through my parents? And I'm looking for something to save us. What's going to help the Jewish people? I swear on my life, these days I look in the mirror, I say, Baba, you're it. No one else is going to come and save us. Yes, God is on our side. God is going to help us. God promised to the Jewish people that Mashiach would come. And we're suffering. We really are. Whether we feel it or not, we don't, the world's not the way it should be. And like those two, I know it's a weird comparison or analogy. That's just my favorite movie ever. And I just remember thinking, that can't be the rescue mission. You need to save him. And I look in the mirror and I'm saying, Baba, you're it. Stop looking for someone to save you, to save your friends from doing things with guys that you know are harmful for them. Stop trying to, push the obligations on everyone else. You're it. I'm the rescue mission. So are you, and 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 so are you. And you have to connect to God. It's not an option. You have an neshama. You have a godly soul. And I'm not the one supposed to be speaking right now. My dad is. Do you have earbuds in? He's not listening to me.
I'm hearing everything
What
you're saying.
do you think about right now? He's listening to I don't know, a podcast. And I'm just babbling on.
This way everything you're saying can be heard on my Facebook.
But I can't stress this enough. Life cannot possibly be about us, because if Mashiach doesn't come, all of us have another, 90 years to live? So life can't be about self-preservation and going to the gym and looking perfect and making a lot of money. There must be something, and it's depressing. I've been through depressing times where life was about me, and I spent so much time in the gym, and I was obsessed with the way I looked. And I wanted to go to the best schools and the best grades. And I realized I'm so freaking unhappy. I'm so unhappy. And I think that these days in Judaism, there's the non-religious kids and there's the really religious kids, because people aren't talking about human issues. And this is what my father his specialty is. He is a reservoir of strength and moral courage and love and care and softness and strength and harshness. Is that a word? He's everything combined, and he's taught me how to be a healthy, strong woman. And I really want that for all of you. And I'm not saying that you guys don't have your own fathers to do this for you, but I know that you are so preoccupied with politics right now, and you guys can see all around the people who hate us and want to kill us, and my father's on the front lines fighting for that. But then there's us who need help in our personal, private, intimate lives, and we don't know where to look, we don't know what to do, and we're confused in our relationship with God. And the bottom line is, all of us would give our lives up for Judaism. We see this every single day. I have two siblings that were in the IDF. You were in the IDF. Ariana was in the IDF. All of us would give our lives up for Judaism, for God, for a fellow Jew. But why can't we live for it? It's like this eternal question. Why can't we live for it? It's like we won't keep Shabbos, but like we'll give our lives up to not convert to Christianity. Why is Jewish history like that? Why do we have to die for our Judaism? Why can't we just live for it? And so I'm going to stop talking now. It's my introduction to my glorious father, who I love so much, and I'm so grateful for your love to me, because I'm now able to teach other people. That's really all I just want to marry a good man, have healthy children, and teach Torah. That's all I want out of my life, and I'm content. So now I give you the kingly chair. I'm going to sit next to you, Gabriel.
Oh, sit over here.
Come on. Oh, where's your phone? Oh, you're holding it.
Come on
okay,
this side.
I'm
Come on
gonna
this
sit
side,
next to you.
Madeline.
So welcome. This is, by the way, everyone, you're not leaving here until you all like the Thirsty Soul online, because Torah needs to be spread to the four corners of the earth, so Mashiach comes. And this is the Thirsty Soul's first Quench event, because that yearning that we all have, it's your neshama asking you to do something. I don't know what it is. It's you're going to figure it out eventually. Your turn.
Yeah, get closer so you're in the shot. Okay, good. I have nothing to add from that. Is there anything that could be said that was better than that? Josh Hartnett, is that who starred in?
He's so beautiful.
I mean, you know,
Not anymore. He's
you're
like,
sitting here saying nice things about your father, and there's all these other guys that are at the table. You immediately
anyone else know who Josh Hartnett is?
you emasculate all of us. What are we, like Swiss
He's
cheese?
just like the ultimate man. I mean, besides my husband. I don't know who he is yet, but he's definitely not more beautiful than my eventual husband. But he is pretty hot. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry. Okay. Don't let me talk anymore.
There's a movie that I loved. Oh, Baba said such nice things. She should be teaching this. This is gonna be a conversation. We're just gonna talk.
No one ate anything. You guys have to eat. I went to Trader Joe's for this. Sorry, keep going.
This is a verbringen.
For bring it.
It's not a lecture.
I didn't want this to be so formal.
I'm wearing these so that whoever's watching could hear me better. So I'll begin by saying, right back at you. We call Rachel Leah Baba, so right back at you, Baba. She's an amazing daughter. Most incredible daughter, thank God. Most loving daughter. I'm amazed at Baba's honesty. You know, we live in a world that's so sanitized, and so candor's missing, and honesty is missing. And even from a young age, you learn just to kind of tailor your words and your sentiments to fit the accepted social structure. But she's not like that. She will speak her mind. It is Yom HaShoah. It's a Holocaust Remembrance Day. It's a painful day. I'll get back to that, because as Baba said, we spent the past 2 summers going to the ugliest places on earth, the most horrid places on earth, where the world's greatest atrocities took place. And none of us can really wrap our brains around 6 million people dying in 4 years, 10,000 people every day. My mother was born October 23rd, 1942, and I just spent Pesach with her. She lives in Miami. I was raised in Miami. I said to my mother, you do realize the day you were born, it was any given day in 1942, but October 23rd, 1942, the day you were born, 10,000 Jews were gassed. If any of you were born on September 11th, 2001, you'd remember it. That was the day that 3,000 Americans were incinerated in a jet-fueled fired inferno about 4 miles from here, down at Ground Zero. You'd remember it. But triple that number, dying every day for 4 years. It was just another Tuesday or whatever the day of the week my mother was born. Because the Holocaust was that big, it's impossible to wrap our heads around it. We'll get to that, because you can't ignore it on such a special day. But the first thing I want to do is examine the current political climate. Not the personalities, but the political strains that are doing really well in America. There's 2 political strains that are going gangbusters in America. One is the strain represented by Bernie Sanders. The other is the strain represented by Donald Trump. And it's the two things that Americans really seem to want. Not the personalities, but what they represent. Let's begin with Trump, and then we'll go to Sanders, because Trump appeals to an older demographic, and you guys are a younger demographic. What is it that people like about Trump? Candor. No filter. Says whatever's on his mind, tweets whatever's on his mind. People were getting so sick of all this sanitized politics that the authenticity of someone who would kind of just be himself, even if it's the self that you don't like, even someone that you can hate, but wow, this guy doesn't read 50 polls before he makes a statement, and it's unvarnished, that appealed to people. Beto O'Rourke had the same thing when he ran against Ted Cruz, and now he's running for president. That's one strain, authenticity. We're so sick of this packaged world being given to us. That's so fake and so fraudulent. Who the heck wants something fake? This prepackaged, fraudulent world that's being handed to us. We're even prepared to accept people whose policies we may not like. I don't know if Republicans like Beto O'Rourke's policies. I don't know if Democrats like Trump's policies. But authenticity is doing very well today. Mayor Pete of South Bend, Indiana, has that same kind of thing going on, authenticity. But then there's the Bernie Sanders thing, which is fascinating. Now, Bernie Sanders' brother, Larry, was a regular at our Shabbat table in Oxford, England for many years. Baba was a baby, and well before that. His brother is an American, has lived in Oxford for decades. Nice guy, very nice guy. Got along really well with him. When he first told me, decades ago, I was in Oxford beginning 30 years ago as rabbi. When Larry Sanders first told me that his younger brother, Bernie, was running for Congress as an independent in Vermont, I said, that's great, but independent. No, he's got no chance in hell. He was elected. Then he told me, he's running for the Senate. I said, what, Democrat, Republican, independent? Oh, forget it, no chance. Wins the Senate. Running for president, no chance. A septuagenarian? A guy with messy hair, and it looks like he slept in his suit. He had no chance 4 years ago, or whatever the election was, 2016. He had zero chance. And then he became a national phenomenon. And not among older people. This guy's in his 70s. And he looks like he's in his 100s. That's not meant to be an insult. As a man, I like Bernie. But, his appeal was among young people. Unbelievable. Feel the burn. All these in 2016, I was shocked. What are all these young people doing flocking college students, millennials, who never follow politics? They're Bernie fans. Again, I'm not looking at the politics of the policies. I'm not looking at the personalities. I'm looking at what they represent. What was it about Bernie? You know what it was? All of you have been told that the only thing you can look forward to as young people is making money, getting a little bit of status, and having a very comfortable life, and being a somebody. That is what you were told. That's as much as you can look forward to. For your parents to go and bribe some guy to get you into an Ivy League university so that you can be a somebody. You can get to USC, you can get into Yale, or whatever other universities were involved in that scandal. All you can look forward to is accumulation and status. That's about it. And your parents are going to drive you nuts. You better do your homework. You better ace your SAT. And we're going to get you this tutor, that tutor. And behind your back, we're going to go and bribe 50 people to get you into that college so that you have this status that will get you an amazing job at one of the top Wall Street banks, or you can be an internet entrepreneur. You could be the next Sergey Brin, or you could be the next Jeff Bezos. Or you could be the next supermodel, you could be the next NBA superstar. And that's all there is to look forward to, accumulation and status. And along came Bernie Sanders and said, wow, that sucks. That's it? America is just money? The whole thing is money? It's all just about billionaires? I'm not going to take any money from billionaires. I'm proud of the fact that I have no money. By the way, when he ran in 2016, he truly had, I think his net worth was like $270,000. Now he's a millionaire because he wrote a book. He's now part of the 1%. He had no money, and he was bragging about it. Who brags about failing financially? Vote for me. I failed completely at the American dream. I never lived in, vote for me. And all the young people came out, and they were electrified. because they can't believe America is the most powerful country in the world, most successful country in the world, and that was the American dream? You can make a couple of bucks, wear designer clothing, go to the gym and try to be as thin as possible, completely feel constantly inadequate, to do everything just to address this inner sense of inadequacy, that you're never thin enough, and you're never young enough, and you're never rich enough, and you're never blue-eyed enough, and you're never blonde enough, and your legs are never long enough, and your bust is never big enough, and your job is never good enough, your university, not enough, and having these voices whisper in your ear constantly that you are a failure, and you better be pushed. And now the voice is that of people who even love you, your own parents. You're not doing enough, you're not studying enough, you're not working hard enough, you're not enough. Is it any, last night I took my kids, whenever it was, we went to see Avengers. I had to see this. I think, I'm not into superhero movies, I'll get to that in a second, but I went to see the Avengers. We have to understand the culture. When a movie becomes the biggest grossing movie of all time, it broke all box office records in its first weekend. Why? And for the past few years, all we've seen is Iron Man and Black Panther and Wonder Woman, and is it because people want to be gods? Like, what is this? And most of the movies are just so stupid. They have no storyline. They have no plot line. No one can be killed. They all have their powers all kind of meld into one. Who could even differentiate them between them? Then you shove 200 superheroes into one movie, call it the Avengers. It's not even Iron Man. It's Iron Man, Spider-Man. They're all something man together. You know what it is? We have all been trained to feel so ordinary that the only thing that turns us on is something that is undeniably extraordinary. It's all these women in the tightest fitting lycra who are superheroes, all these guys who can't be killed, who have these bulging muscles like Thor. There's no celebration of ordinariness. It's something we fear. We've taken it to such an extreme. One superhero ain't enough anymore. You used to be able to have a movie just on Batman, just on Superman. Now you need 40 of them together. Because we fear ordinariness. And all we're doing is trying to prove that we're extraordinary. And we prove it through external accoutrements. If you have an office, presidency of the United States, you're extraordinary. If you have an office called senator, you're extraordinary. Congressman, extraordinary. Billionaire, extraordinary. Supermodel, extraordinary. And if you can't do that, well, your name is basically anonymous. No one knows who the heck you are. But if you put on, Prada, now you're wearing someone else's name. Extraordinary. You drive a fancy car. Extraordinary. You travel in the right circles. Extraordinary. America has become a celebration of insecurity. And these insecurities are why we're the wealthiest country in the world. Because if you live with a chip on your shoulder your whole life, you spend your life proving yourself, right? The person without insecurities, the person who feels really comfortable in their skin, is not going to produce a lot because they're going to actually feel that they have nothing to prove. So along comes the Bernie Sanders phenomenon, and he says, to hell with all that. America is not just a dream about money. It's not just about the billionaires. America is more than that. America is about caring and love. And I'm not endorsing his politics. In fact, to be perfectly honest, his politics are not mine. I wouldn't endorse his policies. I'm not sure they're going to work. But that's not the point. That so many millennials got so engaged politically simply hearing that it's a lie, that all you can look forward to is a game of accumulation, so that between the age of 20 and 80, you just are a hunter-gatherer, that we haven't evolved or progressed in millennia. From the time that people were like cavemen and they were hunter-gatherers, then they gathered sticks and berries. Today it's zeros in your bank account. But it hasn't changed besides that. And if you're a guy, you accumulate as many women as you possibly can before you've got to settle down. I love that expression, settle down. It sounds like you half dead. When you're single and you're sleeping around, you're having the time of your life. But then you're going to settle down, accept that monogamy is the price you pay to have kids and a bit of domestic tranquility. So get all the great sex out of the way in your 20s, because you're going to have no sex by the time you're married. You're going to settle down. And that's the price you pay. But when people basically told us that we have not evolved at all, it's just a matter, we just gather things that are a bit more sophisticated today. And we're nothing but hunter-gatherers. Millennials suddenly woke up and said, this is true. What we have to look forward to is not all that appealing. It's just a game. It's just a race of who's going to accumulate the most, who's going to get onto some list of the top 50 this and the top 10 this. And it's so dehumanizing. You know, I called this talk tonight with Baba, the electrified life, because life is supposed to be electrifying. There's supposed to be things that just course through our veins that make us want to wake up in the morning. And it can't just be money and status and beauty and attractiveness and popularity and all these things that are so ephemeral. There's got to be something more. Because if that's all there is, all we're going to do is just check out. Oh, we'll do it. We'll do all that stuff. But we'll do it as a means to an end. We'll work our guts out and then we'll come home and binge watch TV. Do you know Netflix is producing a new series like probably every other day? That's not enough. They can't even keep up with the insatiability for TV. You know, when I grew up, I was truly deprived. I mean, America sucked back then. We only had like 10 TV channels. Then cable came and they gave us 1,000. And even that wasn't enough. Now we have Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime, and they're putting out 13-part series every other day that people are spending the entire night watching. In my entire life, I would not have believed that we would have been drawn into a world of fantasy like we are today. That Game of Thrones will be infinitely sparse, like who's going to be the person who gets the Iron Throne. Like even I know all this stuff, right? and the Night King, and who's going to kill the Night King, and Sansa Stark. Unbelievable. Why do we hate reality so much that all we're doing is trying to escape it? And that the biggest movie genre, I read the New York Times yesterday. There are 5 top movie critics. You have to read it. It's on the homepage today of the New York Times website, just beneath the cartoon of BB as a dog. Their 5 top movie critics are discussing why the superhero movies have taken over Hollywood completely. Completely. Why people just love escaping into this world of perfection and fantasy. So what is the electrified life? What are the things we're supposed to be really excited about? What is when King David says in Psalms, A'ira Shachar, I am going to awake the dawn. Well, what did he mean? You mean there are people out there who actually look forward to waking up early, who aren't like groggy-eyed and tired? And who A'ira Shachar, who just want to get up and conquer the day? What is it that motivated them? Is it a job at Goldman Sachs? What is the electrified life? What is the life that has passion coursing through your veins? Let's look at the options. Love should be the first thing, right? Isn't that what makes everyone the most giddy? Isn't that the most electrifying feeling that you're in love? Love, romance, sex, the attraction of another, someone finding you attractive. Isn't that it? Well, not really, because how many of you have seen that last? How many of you have seen it last among your parents, among your friends? You know that it's an incredible initial emotion, and it might even last a year, 2 years. Who has seen it last 20 years? Who has seen a couple that are just like crazy about each other for 20 years? The statistics don't support it. 1 out of 3 American couples, married couples, is entirely sexless. Young couples. I was in Australia on a book tour, a book I just published with Pamela Anderson called Lust for Love. It's an interesting pairing, me and Pamela Anderson. I think it was hard for her. You know, look, it's a weird pairing of like an activist and an author writing a book with an international sex symbol. But I think she's more than just an activist and an author. Somebody laughed at
You're the only one laughing. I laugh every time.
I was in Australia on a book tour for Lust for Love, and I said that Netflix had destroyed married couple sex lives. That there's no way that sex could compete right now with Netflix. It's one thing to have a TV in your bedroom. That's quite a distraction. First of all, how is a wife supposed to compete with the thousands of women that intrude on the bedroom every door with her? How's a husband supposed to compete with, what's his name? Josh Hartfelt or Hartnett or?
Hartnett.
Okay. That's bad enough. But when, binge watching, well, who has time to make love? It's just. So there was the top television critic for a New Zealand, I was in Australia, New Zealand. I was actually in New Zealand the day before the mosque massacre. The top television critic for this New Zealand newspaper wrote something fascinating. He's a gay man. He's married to his husband. And he wrote and said, it doesn't matter whether Rabbi Shmuley's correct or not, that Netflix killed marital sex. He said, I'm prepared to accept that that's probably true. TV. He said, where he's wrong is that why should it matter? He said, Netflix is so much better than sex. That was his argument. It did kill it, and we're so much better off. Sex is so 70s. It's so pre-electricity. So what's supposed to really excite you and electrify you? It can't be love, because we're not seeing it. We're seeing it in movies, but we're not just seeing it in people's lives. It doesn't seem to be something, its initial phase electrifying, but after that it seems to settle, like settling down, to settle to something more pragmatic, more predictable. Is it God? Is God supposed to be that which gives us the electrifying life? You're supposed to wake up feeling Hashem loves me. God gives me sight. All the blessings we say the first thing in the morning. Blessed be you, Lord our God, who clothes the naked and gives sight to the sightless. Maybe that's God arriving now. While I take this brief, give me some feedback so far. Do you guys feel that your lives are electrifying?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You lead the electrified life?
I feel like I do.
Great.
Me too.
That's right. Share your secret.
Living as well.
I mean, yeah. that could work.
It's electrifying.
Do you greet the dawn? Are you a shachar? You wake the dawn?
Definitely not. I tried, but I think like having a goal. I wake up and during davening I think to myself, what am I going to accomplish today? What do I want to accomplish today? And when I'm lying down in bed, I think, did I do it?
Lecture over. There it is. So goals give you a sense of electrification. What are the goals?
It very much depends on like how I wake up and how I feel in the morning. But it could be as simple as I'm going to do something for someone else, or I want to make sure that I feel like you're going to say something.
No, I'm listening. It sounds like you're saying that the electrified life comes from selflessness.
A lot of it, yeah. And giving, and caring for others.
So maybe the electrified life comes from God and God's commandment to us, or God's objectives in getting us to care for all of it, love all of his children. The problem with that is that we also don't witness that very much. We go through an Orthodox life, and it's nice, but it can be routinized very quickly. It can become rote and mechanical very quickly. You can go through the prayers just hoping, because it's a duty, it's an obligation, it's a responsibility. Like counting the Omer tonight. Make sure you count the Omer tonight. Religion's amazing, but I'm not speaking about the excesses of religion or the barbarity at times that religion has exhibited, especially with the Jews as its targets, including in our own time. I'm talking about how even religion can begin as something electrifying, but it could lose its passion as time goes on.
I think that's everything.
Sorry?
I think that's everything.
Is it everything? That's the key question tonight. What is the electrifying life? So you're saying it doesn't exist. That everything must lose its passion.
I think it exists in a constant state of change.
Well, it's a cycle.
I think it's,
Okay, that's interesting. So the electrifying life is all about transformation. And you have to change constantly. You have to grow with the seasons.
It's growing. I think that's the.
And that stagnation is what destroys the electrifying life.
I think it's about always doing something out of your comfort zone. Whatever you do in your life.
Danger.
Yeah. Some kind of, If you're always comfortable, your life. I don't think your life can be electrified. I don't believe in that.
So you have to break free of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say a man is very comfortable with his wife. What does that mean?
So I
Should
don't
he
think-
try it with someone else? What does it mean? How does he break free of his comfort
Try
zone?
new sport.
Let's say, what's your first name?
Moshe.
Okay, you like your Judaism?
Yeah.
Okay, should he break free of his comfort zone by I don't know, worshiping Jesus for a day?
No, you should look for it. You should try new sport, go to new places, meet new people. Do stuff he.
Ah,
do
okay,
that.
okay, no, listen. Okay, so this is what we've heard so far. Do we all, let's just go, I want to have some kind of consensus, as much as we can build a consensus. Does everyone agree that some of the points that I made, let's just go through them quickly. Number one, that for young people, the message seems to be, even from parents, and I never thought that we would have criminal charges against hundreds of parents, top celebrities, paying to get their kids into the best schools, because that's part of that lie, that where you go to school, what prefix or suffix is at the beginning of your name, end of your name, how much money you earn, is how much value you have as a human. These parents are doing it out of love. They want to do the best for their kids. That's what they honestly believe is the best for their kids. Getting them into Stanford. Do we all first agree that millennials are kind of pushing back against this feeling that that's all we have to do is just earn and succeed, and it's a bit of a fraudulent message? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, number two. I said that the electrifying life is a passionate life, that we all want that kind of life. Is that fair? Number three, I said love would seem to provide the first thing for it, example, but it doesn't seem to last. We don't really see that 20 or 30 years into people's relationships. Fair?
Generally, no.
Fourth thing I said is religion also provides it, but even religion seems to become rote and routinized after a while, correct? So you guys then responded, true, but that's why you need change. And what's your first name? Dennis. And you said change is go to a new place, do something new, try a new sport. Now there's two kinds of change in life. There's horizontal change and there's vertical change. Horizontal change is you're bored in your job, so quit and try a new job. And then what usually happens?
You get bored of that job.
You get bored in that job. And then what do?
Quit that one.
So Dennis, you would say to me, oh, okay, well, 4 or 5 months or a year, 2 years, move to a new job, correct? Because change. So this is, and what's your name? Hadar. So you said that we're going to get bored of almost everything. That passion is going to subside in almost any endeavor. So you agree with Dennis that you need to change, therefore?
In certain ways, yeah.
Okay. So let's see what the natural consequences are of that philosophy. If it's true that passion always subsides in everything, in religion, in love, even in money, in everything, it leads to two consequences. Number one, that we must move horizontally from place to place, job to job, maybe even relationship to relationship. This is where people no longer believe in monogamy. What, you're going to wake up to the same face, make love to the same body for 50 years? Are you crazy? And by the way, this is the primary belief in places like Europe. I love Iceland. I love visiting Iceland. Rachel and I were with her brother Yosef in Iceland last year. That was my 4th or 5th. I love Iceland. I love the rugged beauty of the place. Iceland only has 20% of the people married. 80% are not married. They no longer believe. They think marriage is, they believe in serial monogamy. They believe that the life of a relationship is about 7 or 8 good years where it's passionate, it's sexy, it's romantic, it's loving. But after that, it just becomes routine, a little bit boring. No hard feelings. Don't even marry so you have to divorce and it's this big traumatic split. Just accept that the relationship, it phased out. And now you're ready for the next one, right? Who believes that to be true?
That's not love.
What is it?
Love.
But Dennis, you would say it's the only way to sustain a relationship, correct?
No, it's not. Relationship.
A relationship is different.
Different subject. Yeah.
So everything in life you get bored of except love. And yet you can't point many examples to me where that's true, where people seem to be very excited about each other 30 years into the relationship.
I think even if you stay in a long time in a relationship, you have to try new things in that relationship. To make
How about your relationship with God? Should we try something new in our relationship with God? Should we try a new religion? I mean, Judaism's cool. It's got a lot of laws. Pretty cool. Christianity seems to have a lot of good things going for it. Jesus loves you personally. He dies for your sins. Islam seems to be an amazing religion, incredibly passionate, fastest growing religion in the world. Mormons seem to be an amazing religion, very strong on family. They live in gorgeous Utah. Hasidim live in like Borough Park in Crown Heights. So does it apply to our relationship with God as well? Doesn't it seem that monogamy really is, based on what you're saying, it's a fraud, right? It was created by society to keep us in control. The society needs nuclear families so the police don't have to raise kids who are out of control because their parents aren't raising them. So we create this lie called marriage. We invent this lie called love, which really is only good for 4 or 5 years. And by the way, we were all supposed to drop dead at 35 anyway, but modern science now keeps us alive till 80. So we're 50 years past our sell-by date in all these relationships anyway. And so marriage is a farce. Raise your hand if you agree. Okay.
I agree.
So 1/3 of the audience already agrees. And I've barely gotten started.
I want to say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that there's a very big difference between romance and love, in that the transition is sometimes not often recognized.
Between what and what?
Romance and love.
Just 1 second. Romance and
Romance
love.
is like that.
Okay, I got it.
initial
So
desire.
you believe that romance is like the electrifying, exciting part, and then
No.
love is like kind of the boring,
Not the boring.
mortgage paying, laundry.
It's the giving. It's the ever giving.
So that's the Fiddler on the Roof belief, right? Because Tevye, for the first time in his life, sees romance. Maybe not the first time, but first time in a long time. He loves Golda, and Golda loves him, but he's a milkman, and she's cleaning stuff the whole day. They're poor as hell, and suddenly his daughter's falling in love. The next daughter's falling in love. So suddenly he has to ask himself. He goes to Golda. What does he say? Do you love me? And she bats away the question, saying, "What are you, like some sort of teenager suddenly? Do I love you? I had your kids. I wash your clothes." He said, "But do you love me?" And then she famously says, "If that isn't love, what is?" Right? And then everyone claps, and it sounds so beautiful. But it's a farce. Because it's a great thing to watch on Broadway, but no one would choose it. If I told any of you, look, you're going to start your marriages, it's going to be incredibly passionate, and going out to dinner and movies and holding hands and walks by the river, and 40 years later it's going to become love. You're doing each other's dishes and underwear, but that's real love. You'd say, pass. Next, no one would choose that. No one would willingly go into a relationship like that, where romance would transmit into a very pragmatic love that's not electrifying. That's the non-electrifying life. And people want an electrifying life. So is the only electrification we're going to get, our lives are going to be mundane, predictable, routinized, and the only excitement we're going to get is by binge watching Netflix, where you put yourself into a fantasy role like on Game of Thrones on HBO. Now my life, and the next morning I can talk about it. Arya Stark kills the Night King, and oh God, I know way too much about this. Do you see what I mean? The only excitement is when we shed ourselves and go into a world of fantasy. Why do you think people are addicted to their phones? By the way, why are people addicted to texting? Texting isn't that interesting. Why are you, especially millennials, why are you guys addicted to texting? It's so exciting about what might come next. Like who knows who's going to write to me next and what they're going to say next, and it just kind of breaks the routine. The truth is, it is a routine. But if you're right, that life is only electrified through horizontal renewal, that would mean that we can never really live in the moment. We live in the moment very briefly, and then the moment, like milk, goes off pretty quickly. It becomes sour, and then we have to live in a new moment. Does that mean that we should raise our children communally in case we get bored of them too? Seriously. What happens if the relationship with our children becomes stale? Don't tell me it doesn't. You know how many kids are neglected? You know how many kids are neglected by loving parents? You know how many kids today are being raised by their iPhones, their iPads, and by TV? By loving parents? If we can't sustain our interest in something, that means that the most important things to us can never really be that important. It means monogamy doesn't work. So at most we're going to have, and maybe that's best, serial monogamy. That's what, especially in Europe, that's what's being tried right now. Or open marriages and open relationships, where you accept, I do want intimacy, but I don't want to have the exclusivity of monogamy. Big problem, though.
What is an open marriage?
Open marriage is where you stay married to one partner, you love them, but you accept that you have sex with other partners. There's one problem with that. It doesn't overcome the human problem of jealousy, where you start getting attached to that other person, and that really hurts the person that you love. Do you know how humanity in general and modernity in particular has resolved this problem that nothing seems to really engage us long term? How have we, if our jobs don't fully engage us, if our romantic partnerships don't, it doesn't mean we're not in love. It means we're not fully engaged. I'll just give you an example of what I mean. The Torah is just, I'll give you an example that I write in Kosher Sex. The Talmud says that when a man and woman, husband and wife, make love to each other, they have to think about each other. You cannot practice what I call mental infidelity. You can't make love to someone's body, but in your mind you're thinking about someone else, someone you saw in a movie, someone you work with. By the way, there's no way of faking it. Someone always the person you're making love to always knows if you're mentally present or mentally absent. Now that's a fascinating law, because most people would say, look, I didn't cheat. Isn't it better if I make love to my wife, make love to my husband, I don't cheat? I'm thinking about someone else. What harm is done? Where is the harm? Isn't that better than having an affair or being addicted to porn? Where's the harm done? And where's the harm done? This is the most intimate connection you have with another human being, and you're not even there. It doesn't even engage you. And if that doesn't engage you, nothing will. It's like pretending to listen to your kids when they talk to you. I hate when my kids have to say to me, Tati, are you listening? Because they're right. Sometimes I'm not. I'm like in space. My head's bobbing. It's funny because if like Rachel Leah says that to me, I can always repeat word for word what she just said to me.
You always repeat word for word, but I'm like, you heard, but you weren't listening.
Yeah.
He has like a photographic memory.
I
Gets
don't,
away with it
but
every
anyway,
time.
it's just a dad's trick. If nothing can fully engage us, so how has the world dealt with that? God doesn't seem to fully engage us. Love doesn't seem to fully engage us. So there's two things. This is how we've dealt with it. The first is something called distractions. Distractions. Why do you think people have gone to war so often? Do you know a lot of wars throughout history have resulted just from boredom? Too many guys sitting around Europe like the Crusades, too much testosterone. I'm serious. World War I was the dumbest war ever fought. The slaughter is... Anyone here ever watch All's Quiet on the Western Front? Or read the book? You're talking about battles where at times 60,000 men would die in a single battle. And they were fighting over nothing. It wasn't like the Civil War here in the U.S. over slavery, the Union, whatever. It was just over egos, nothing. So war is a bad distraction. Or movies we talked about. And what's the other way? How does humankind deal with the lack of passion? So Yuval Noah Harari wrote the biggest selling book of the past probably decade. I think it's still number one on the New York Times list, isn't it? Sapiens? Anyone here read Sapiens? It's a brilliant book. He's Israeli. He's Israeli, gay, atheist, brilliant, genius, very proud Israeli. Not religious at all. Very proud Israeli. Teaches at Hebrew University. He taught my son history. And the book is a brilliant book. It'll shake some of your faith. It's a brilliant book. But you know what the main insight that he makes in that book? The book is all about how individuals come together to form collectives, how they come together to form communities. The most brilliant insight in the book is that the one thing people, according to him, people invented God in order to create communities. They invented nationalities and nationalism. You know, you now felt you were German or you felt you were French. The whole book is about how when individuals become too numerous, how they learn to organize themselves collectively. You know what the main insight of the book is? What is the main thing that human beings invented? Even if we are atheists and we believe that human beings invented God to control people, but that's not the main invention. You know what the main invention was? What's the main distraction that humanity has created in order to deal with boredom? What's it called? He says the main thing we invented was currency, money. He said the one thing money did was it created an agreed upon form of currency for the exchange of goods. And accumulating that thing called money became the main distraction that people obsessed over and engaged in. And look at how out of control it is now. You see, if life's not that passionate, and you need distractions in order to, then money is the thing that buys you the most distractions. It'll buy you a boat and you can go to the Mediterranean. It'll buy you enough money to go to the movies. It'll buy you a beautiful house that you can constantly tinker with and you can constantly fix. It could buy you many houses so you don't have to stay in one place. When you get bored of one, you go to the next. It could buy you a private jet so you could move constantly. You're never going to be bored. When really, there's a difference between being an adventurer and being a wanderer. The adventurer seeks genuine passion, and the wanderer runs from a genuine emptiness. The man who cheats on his wife, he's not an adventurer. He's not looking for great sex in someone else's bed. He's a wanderer. He has allowed his marriage to become utterly empty, and he's just escaping that vacuousness. He's a failure because he doesn't know how to make his marriage exciting. So, we come to this sole conclusion. The electrified life is where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, the natural becomes miraculous, and the everyday unique. I want to repeat that. The electrified life is where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, the natural becomes miraculous, and the everyday unique. The magic you are seeking is already present. It's just a question of whether you can recognize it. I'll give you an example, a fairly obvious example. About 10 years ago, I took my family. I was hosting a TV show on TLC called Shalom in the Home, and I wanted to experiment with a new television genre within the same framework of working with families. I used to live with a family for a week. I'd park an RV outside their house, and I would work with them over their problems, and every week was a different subject. You know, it could have been blended families, it could have been infidelity, it could have been eating disorders, it could have been ADD, ADHD. Every week was something different. It was a very challenging show, actually. But people started writing into TLC, the network, and saying, you know what, we want to know more about Rabbi Shmuly's family. So the show was called Shalom in the Home. So I went to the network and I said, what if we did something called Shalom on the Roam? Because we actually owned an RV and we used to go all around the country. I said, what if we film so we went to Alaska and we filmed it. Okay. But just before we went to Alaska, you know, we drove from Portland, Oregon, all the way to Alaska. It's quite a drive. And we were there for 6 weeks. Greatest trip of my life. But just before something potentially catastrophic happened. I was hiking around Oregon, or in Washington. We don't know exactly where. We were hiking, and I was bitten by a brown recluse spider on my leg. Now, a brown recluse is the second deadliest spider in the world, and I only found out about it. I started seeing red streaking on my leg, and it was hurting a bit. But you brush the stuff off. By the time we're about to cross over into Canada, it got so bad I had to go check it out. We were filming all this. And we go into the emergency room, and I heard it was one of the most terrifying nights of my life. And the guy said to me, the doctor says to me, "We're going to do everything we can to save your leg." I couldn't believe. I thought, it hurt my leg. Give me some aspirin. I was in shock. Even saying it to you now is traumatizing. We're going to do everything possible to save your leg. I'm 52 today. I was 42 at the time, I'm guessing. I was going to, God forbid, lose a leg. And they put me on the highest doses of antibiotics to fight, And it was like 3 or 4 days of hell. Do you know when I left the hospital and I could walk, and for the next few weeks, throughout all the weeks we were in Alaska, I had to do special, my wife was an angel, special dressings on we had to be very careful with them. I didn't want to cancel the trip. I have the scars on my leg till today. Do you know what it was like to walk on 2 legs when you left that hospital? Do you know what it was like to have 2 legs? I had always had 2 legs. I was living a miracle. I just didn't see it. I wanted more. I had everything I needed. It was magical. to jump and run and see and go up the stairs and down, and my brain firing synapses through my nerve endings to my legs, telling them what to do. It was a miracle, and I never saw it until someone said the miracle may be taken away. It was terrifying. The ordinary was extraordinary. I just couldn't see it. Do you understand that I've led you down a fallacious, erroneous, fraudulent path for the past 30-odd minutes when we've spoken? Everything I've told you is a lie. Everything I've told you is, what do we have to do or find or seek outside of ourselves in order to find the electrified life? When all along I was distracting you from the real answer, which is, all you have to do is see. I do a lot of marriage counseling. A lot of it is done in that couch over there. Make sure this room is empty. Some of it is done in another couch in Englewood, New Jersey. Some of it is done in this room. Do you know how many husbands I know who will tell me they think their wives are great mothers? Wonderful people. You hear the same thing. My wife's a wonderful person. She's an amazing person. But I'm just not attracted to her. And I'll say to him, but your wife's beautiful. She's vivacious and vibrant, and she's gorgeous, but not to me. I hear that all the time. So years ago I was writing a book, and a guy told me this. And I decided, you know what? Sometimes, God forbid, when someone's heart stops, you got to give them, what are those things called? No, where you... A defibrillator, right. You got to like a shock to the system. So this marriage had 3 kids. It was going under fast. There were no real issues except the erotic spark had been lost. The husband just showed, he ignored her. He told me, he said there's no chemistry. He found nothing attractive about her. So this is what I did. I said, I want you guys to drive 2-3 hours from home. Alone, together. I told the wife, I want you to put on a beautiful dress. Modest, nice, but I want you to look great. And just go to a respectable bar. And I told the wife, I want you just to sit at the bar. She said, then what? I said, order a drink, order a beer, order an orange juice, whatever, Diet Coke. My husband said, what am I doing? He said, you're sitting across the bar, no one knows the two of you together, that's all you're doing. So what am I? I said, you're just there for the view. They didn't want to do it. I had to push them. I said, listen, don't come to me for marital advice if you're not going to follow it. You're wasting my time. So they agreed. So the wife goes, sits at the bar, orders a Diet Coke. She's there for like 20 minutes. Husband's across the room. What do you think began to happen?
Guys started hitting on her.
What?
Guys started hitting on her.
Yeah, how many? So in this case, it started with 3. Then it was down to 2, and then, okay. My husband's watching this and watching this. At first he doesn't care. He thinks it's almost funny, humorous. And now it starts to really bother him. And his wife starts talking to this guy very innocently. Who are you? What do you do? After about 45 minutes, he couldn't even make it to an hour. He walked over. He says to the guy, this is my wife you're talking to. The guy says, oh, sorry. I didn't know you were here with anyone. Grabs his wife by the hand, takes her outside and said, you're disgusting. I would never do to you what you did to me tonight. It's just, you have no faithfulness. I mean, disgusting. I would have thought that you would tell the guy you're married and everything. Next day, the guy calls me up. He's screaming at me. What kind of marital counselor are you? I said, I'm the good kind. I said, why are you so angry? She's not attractive. No one's attractive. What are you so angry for? He said, you were playing with our marriage. I said, no, you were, because you're blind. All I did was open your eyes and have you see your wife through someone else's eyes. She didn't change. There wasn't some magical spell. You had lost the capacity to see. The reason we're suffering so much today depression, unhappiness, and America is officially the unhappiest country in the world. Richest, most powerful in the history of the world, taking the most antidepressants, dealing with the most mental health. And a lot of it is serious mental health that has to be treated, absolutely. I've learned that the hard way. It's absolutely true. But a lot of it is also societal and nurture rather than nature. Do you know what it is? America trains us to look in the mirror and not see that we're special, beautiful, accomplished. Because if people feel inadequate, they will spend their lives trying to be adequate. If they feel that they are ordinary, they will spend their lives trying to prove they are extraordinary. And no one will work harder than that. And that's why we're the richest country of the world and the most unhappy. The two are absolutely interrelated. Instead of working out of a sense of motivation that we have something to offer, you said, remind me of your name one more time, please. Moshe, you said that you wake up in the morning, you're all excited because you feel that you have, let me use the word that you used, that you feel you have, don't tell me. It wasn't a mission. What is the word you used? A goal. You have something to offer, something to give. But we're trained these days to wake up and feel we have nothing to give. So we better prove ourselves so that we make ourselves worthy. We make ourselves lovable. And it's like a horse that has a carrot attached to a pole, like from its neck, and it's always right in front of him, but he can never get it because he doesn't realize wherever he moves, it's still right in front of him. Or always grasping for it and never feeling fulfilled. Do you know what Judaism is?
The tool.
Every religion essentially has one message. If you do the right things here, you're going to get the good stuff up there. If you believe in Jesus, you're going to heaven. You fight for Muhammad or live a good Islamic life, you're going to get the afterlife. Everything is, we agree, down here kind of sucks. But if you persevere and live a righteous life, you're going to get the good stuff. What is Judaism? It's the only religion that says there is no heaven save that which you create here on earth. Yes, we have a Gan Eden. If you die, your soul goes to paradise, but only temporarily. There will be a resurrection of the dead in a perfect world. Our job is to make heaven here on earth. It's all already here.
I didn't even know that.
And because we don't have that message, we keep on grasping for things outside of ourselves. I'm not saying we shouldn't be successful. I'm saying we should be successful, even in a material way, based on what we feel we have to contribute and innovate and be entrepreneurs. Not because we're empty and have to constantly prove ourselves and always feel inadequate. It's got to stop this feeling that we're not good enough, living with no confidence. What does every poll say, every study ever done? Who are the sexiest women to men? What's the sexiest quality? A woman with self-confidence. What's the number one quality women love about men? No? The first thing women love about men is a man with a sense of humor. Do you know how much confidence it takes to have a sense of humor? Because the one thing you can immediately gauge if it was successful or not is a joke. The people are either going to laugh. Believe me, I've done stand-up where people laughed, and then I did stand-up recently where I bombed so badly. The number one thing women say they like most about a man is a man that makes me laugh. That takes tremendous confidence to just be yourself, to be so natural that you can make people laugh. You know, a few years ago, my daughter Sterny is now married with a baby, thank God, her older sister. So I get a call. She was at school. I get a call from the Spanish doctor, and he says to me, says, your daughter so misbehaved today during Spanish class. She talked, she passed notes, and she doesn't know a word of Spanish. Maybe gracias. So I promised her, I'm going to take care of it. I wait for her to come home. I'm going to give it to her. She comes home. I wait to have dinner the whole time. Oh, she's going to get it. And I'm waiting, like, speed dinner up. I say, Sterny, come into my office. She, like, walks with her head down. I don't know if she was 9, 10. She walks with her head down. And she comes into my office. And the first thing she says is, Tati, I know what this is about. I said, how would you know what this is about? You're not like a prophet. She said, I know. The Spanish teacher is evil. He's such an evil man. He's a horrible, horrible man. Tati, I'm telling you, his name is Damien. I saw under his scalp, there's like a 666. Let's just buy like the special silver nail and put it through his heart. Rather than, because otherwise he'll become the undead. And join the army of the Night King. And you know what? At that moment, I just had an epiphany as a father. It was unbelievable. I said, oh my God, I am doing to my daughter what was done to me and what was done to my parents and their parents going back thousands of generations. I called her into a room, not really to discipline her, but to tell her that she's inadequate, that she's not doing well enough at school, that she's not pleasing the teachers, that I'm not proud of her, that she's not making me proud. Where's the nachas of getting a good report from a teacher? This is where it all starts. And she's already on the defensive, and the best defense is a good offense, already attacking the teacher, so it becomes a he said, she said kind of thing. Let's blunt what he said, because he's the devil. So I looked at her and I said, stop, just stop. You think that I called you into my office to tell you off that you didn't do well in Spanish class today. I actually called you into my office to tell you that I love you. And there's nothing you could do that can make me love you more. And there's nothing that could ever improve you, because you're perfect just the way you are. And because of that, I want you to try harder in Spanish class. Where do these voices come that constantly make us feel that just outside ourselves, or just in front of us, in someone else's marital bed, in someone else, in some other university which is more prestigious, in some other relationship, in some other job, in some other religion, in some other body, we would be so much happier because we are deficient, insufficient, and inadequate. Where did these voices come from? You know, my daughter knows that the hardest show I ever did on Shalom Aleichem was eating disorders. They're very, very hard. And I had little exposure to it. And there was a team of professionals on Shalom Aleichem who would choose the families. We had thousands of families that were applying to be on the show. It was a successful show, thank God. And I would use Jewish values to repair these families. So there was a 17, and of the 20 families that we did, only 2 were Jewish. There was a Jewish family in New Jersey. They had a 17-year-old girl, and she was 88 pounds. And she had just come out of the hospital, and the parents watched the show, and they wanted me to come to work with her on her. She had anorexia. We debated, should we do it? It really needs experts, and it does need experts. But we decided we're not going to make this about curing her of anything. We're going to make it about discussing it. So I meet her. What a sweet girl. All my kids would later meet her because her family came to Shabbos dinner, and she became friendly with my daughters. But she had just come out of the hospital. She had almost died. She was stick thin. And her mother says to me, you know, I'm the daughter, today's Holocaust Remembrance Day, I'm the daughter of Holocaust survivors. And I don't get it. This is the way my grandmother looked in Buchenwald. The difference is that we're in the flesh pots of Egypt. We live in the richest country in the world. My husband is a successful businessman. The fridge is bursting with food, and she won't eat. She even said to me, do you think that there's like a reincarnation of one of the family Holocaust, the victims, and my daughter? That I said, no, I don't think it's that spiritual. You know, the mother was grasping for answers. So I sit with this girl and I say to her, you know, we had cameras. The way the show worked is we had cameras in the film everything. So we saw that at 5 o'clock in the morning, she had gone up when no one could see her and like went to the fridge and eaten something small and went back to sleep. So I sit with her and I say to her, we saw you eating. So you do eat. But you didn't want anyone to see you eat. Why? She said, yeah, I'm embarrassed when people see me eat. I said, I understand if you're embarrassed if you rob a bank. I understand if you're embarrassed if you lie. Why are you embarrassed if you eat a cube of cheese? Cheese isn't alive. You're not killing anyone. I'll never forget what she said to me. She said to me, I have a voice that I hear constantly. It's inside my head. I call the voice Ed, for eating disorder. Ed. It's funny because later I would read a book about eating disorders and the author called it the same thing. But this young girl told me that she had given it this name. And she said to me, Ed speaks to me and he says to me, if you just lost a bit more weight, the boys would like you. If you just lost a bit more weight, you'd be popular like the other girls in the class. If you just lost a bit more weight, you would look in the mirror and really see something beautiful. I said to her, okay, I have only one question. Is Ed friend or foe? She said, I think he's a friend. So I stopped the filming. I walked outside. I said to one of the producers, I need a stocking. And they said, what for? I said, Shmuley, this sounds pretty weird. I said, just give me a stocking. So they went and got me a stocking. I pulled it over my head. And I walked back into the filming. I sat with her. And she said, you're creeping me out. What is this? She said, Rabbi Shmuley, what is this? I said, I'm not Rabbi Shmuley. I said, who are you? I said, I'm Ed. And she said, you look really creepy. I said, I'm Ed. She said, you look pretty spooky. I said, I'm Ed. She said, you look downright scary. I said, I'm Ed. Then I took off the thing and I said, whenever you hear that voice, put a face to it. He is not a friend. I finished filming that thing and it was one of the most transformative moments of my life because I had my own Ed. I hear that voice all the time. If only you did this, you'd be okay. If only you moved here or moved there or did this new, it would all be great. If only, if only. And that is the Yetzer Hara. If you want to know exactly what the Yetzer Hara sounds like, you think the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is like this voice, go kill people. You think it's just a voice that this animal heard in Poway, California, or the other killer in Pittsburgh, or the killer in New Zealand? No. They're much subtler. The Yetzer Hara is the one that comes along and always says, whatever you think you see, you don't see. It's not there. If you see beauty, it's not really there. If you see accomplishment, it's not really there. You're never good enough. And the Yetzer Hara simply undermines the spark of the divine that makes you infinitely powerful and infinitely special and gives your life an electrifying surge of passion. The electrified life is the life where we embrace ourselves completely and totally, with all of our flaws, with all of our imperfections. We're not Christians. We don't believe in Jesus figures. The electrified life is sometimes when we're a little bit overweight and it's a little bit underweight. The electrified life is sometimes we pray with great devotion and sometimes with utter boredom. It's sometimes when we lose our temper and it's sometimes when we're compassionate and loving. But it's always an authentic we. It's us fully invested in our lives, fully invested in our skin, fully inhabiting all of our talents, our imagination, our creativity. The electrified life is when you are a true original. It's when you stop trying to be what someone else wants you to be. That is electrifying. And all of us know this. I'll prove it. Because the most electrifying moments you will remember in life are those when you allowed your inhibitions to be lost, when you just decided to go with who you were, whether it was a friend's wedding, Whether it was a great birthday party, whether it was just sitting and finally feeling comfortable in your skin, it was electrifying. That's why the Torah says that the most electrifying moments are simcha. See, we think that drinking makes us lose inhibition, or drug taking makes us lose inhibition. The truth is that no one is as uninhibited as they are in a moment of true joy. Simcha paretzes geder. It's where you transcend all these limitations. Depression is all limitation. It's where you can't even muster the energy to get out of bed or smile. And joy is paretzes geder. It's where you go beyond any kind of inhibition. You're just so comfortable with who you are, and it's electrifying. And if we don't change the national attitude and the personal attitude, Baba, you started this thing by saying that I'm involved in political things, mostly about Israel and fighting anti-Semitism. That's the macrocosm. That has to change. But also, if we don't change the microcosm, the world of our personal selves, is that what you guys really want? A world where parents are spending millions of dollars to get their kids into some school in the belief that on not their character, not their actions, not their talents, not their heart, not their mind, but the school they went to, their resume is going to determine their identity. That parents are prepared to go to jail for that. Not to give their kids an example of joy or acceptance or belief in themselves. They will go to jail to give their children that fraudulent message that being in Stanford is who you are. My God, even if you don't go to jail for that, man, have you screwed up your kids. And it becomes an heirloom. It will go from generation to generation to generation. That's why, to conclude, I just want to tell you, I would love to be President of the United States. It looks really cool. I'd love to fly in Air Force One. I'd love to have Marine One. I'm very grateful to President Trump for the amazing stuff he's done for Israel. But if he wants to move aside for me to take over, I'm ready. I'd love to be a billionaire. I'd love to, I don't know, I love football. I love being a quarterback. I'd love to be Tom Brady and win the 6 Super Bowls and all this stuff. But I know one thing. Wearing that suit of someone else, it might be kind of cool, but I know I would never be happy. It would never be electrifying. Electrifying is where you begin to see. It's knowing that the ordinary is extraordinary, that the natural is miraculous, that the everyday is unique. And once you begin to live with that acceptance and embrace yourself fully and develop your talents to the best of your ability, once you stop the most corrosive thing in society, which is comparison, once you stop the comparison is the day you truly begin to live. And that's why prayer is so important in Judaism. Prayer is that moment of fusion of you and God when there's nobody else. So there's total concentration and no comparison. Why do you think we separate men and women at an Orthodox shul? You're not supposed to approach God through the comfort of being a couple. You're supposed to approach God through the loneliness of being an individual who wants to discover his own authentic relationship with God and embrace himself or herself just the way they are without the comfort of love. And people tell me, I hate going to Orthodox shuls, I want to sit with my wife. You lost the whole idea of prayer. You're not praying out of a sense of security and someone's with me in comfort. You're praying out of the exact opposite. God, I want to know who I am. One final proof that this is the electrifying life. It's an undeniable proof. It's an irrefutable proof. Because when you find someone who really has fully embraced who they are and lives with their talent, their own goals, their convictions, someone who's completely in tune with their innermost selves, they are the most impressive person in the room. Not the richest, and everybody knows it. They're never trying to impress other people. They don't say things that they don't mean. They live authentically, and everybody's envious of that person, regardless of what they own or what they don't. They see there's a fusion of the outer and the inner self. There isn't this disconnect that so many of us feel today. And that's the person we call, interestingly, the tzaddik. Who is a tzaddik? A tzaddik doesn't mean that you're the most righteous person that ever lived. The tzaddik is someone with whom there is no discrepancy between the outer and the inner self. They live according to their inner convictions. Their actions are not some suit or Purim costume they wear. They're one and the same. And that's why you see that the tzaddik always has a certain tranquility. You know, I was on a panel with the Dalai Lama. I consider him a righteous man. His religion is not my religion. I'm not a Buddhist, I'm a Jew. But he has led his people through 70 years of Chinese persecution. He's never called for violence. He's the exact opposite of the leadership of the Palestinians. Not that I'm even comparing what the Chinese did to the Tibetans. Israel's a righteous and majestic democracy that upholds human rights in every sector. But he's never called for violence. So I'm on this panel with him in Birmingham, Alabama. And the Chinese, I guess, or a Chinese back group came to heckle him. Now, I sometimes get heckled, especially if I'm doing a pro-Israel speech, I get heckled. Who's ever heard of the Dalai Lama being heckled? Like, this is the most respected man on earth. Anyway, I'm on the panel with him. There's like 4 of us. And this guy starts to heckle the Dalai Lama. So I take the microphone from the Dalai Lama. This is all on video. I take it and I say to the guy, hey man, if you need to heckle a Dalai Lama, then you are one sad man. I mean, if he's objectionable, the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama started to laugh. My son Mendy was with me. Mendy had this long beard. He was grabbing Mendy's beard and making us all laugh. World famous leader, arguably the most respected man on earth, arguably. Him, Pope Francis, and me. It's probably the triumvirate. I couldn't believe how comfortable this man was in his own skin, in his own sheets. The utter serenity. And when you're around him, and now I see why he's so attractive to people. Just the serenity. The Lubavitcher Rebbe had that same gift. There's a picture of the Rebbe in front of me. I had a private audience of the Rebbe when I was 13 years old. It was quite amazing. Just me and the Rebbe alone, 3 o'clock in the morning. Just the serenity that I felt for those 3.5, 4 minutes that I had alone with him. A man completely attuned, completely comfortable with who he was and what his vision was. He wasn't the richest. He wasn't the most powerful. He wasn't the most popular. Chabad was significantly smaller at that time. This is 1970s. Chabad is 20 times the size today. But I'll never forget that sense of serenity. And when you look to marry, by the way, that's the sexiest person of all, always. It's the guy who doesn't have a pickup line. He's so comfortable with himself that he's so inviting. People are drawn to him. It's the woman who, there's a certain serenity about her. And there's beauty and everything else, but you're just drawn to her by her energy. That's the electrifying life. A life where you're not pursuing things that are outside of yourself, but you know the magic that's always within. And it really works. And it's what Judaism is, I believe. What is Judaism? It's an attempt to attune us to the magic that is always around us. Why does God make me say a blessing on a strawberry? I mean, how many times have I eaten a strawberry in my life? 200 billion? Why do I have to acknowledge it? Because God wants you attuned to the fact that it's a miracle. Blessed be you, O Lord our God, who creates. This is an act of creation. We take these things for granted. Do you need to be God? Now to finish, it's Holocaust Remembrance Day. Do you need to be, God forbid, in the Łódź ghetto to appreciate a strawberry? Do you need to be in the Warsaw ghetto to appreciate it? Do you need to be in Auschwitz, God forbid, to appreciate life? Why is it that humanity is only appreciative of its blessings when we are deprived of them? Why do we only see miracles when the miracles are removed? And then all we do is pray for that miracle. We talked about the boredom of marriage. My wife's grandparents were Holocaust survivors. They were born in Slovakia. They married the year before the war. They were then separated during the war, and they didn't know if the other was alive. And they found each other in Prague, if I'm telling all the details correctly, 1945, and they each thought the other was dead. My mother-in-law was born in Prague in 1946, the year after the war. Baba's grandmother. Imagine how they felt when they discovered the other was alive. And yet husbands and wives wake up every single morning to each other and they just see the same monotonous, and yet it's always a miracle. And that's Judaism, attuning us to miracles, telling us that Shabbos is sacred. I was at 9/11 yesterday. I went to Ground Zero yesterday, only because it was Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I wanted to do a message to my friends, but I wanted to do it from sacred ground. Ground Zero is sacred ground. It might look like any other place, but it's sacred ground. There's the ashes of 3,000 people mixed into the ground. When you go to Auschwitz, there's the ashes of 3 million mixed into the ground, or 1 million that died there. Sacred ground, and that's why, what is the first thing that God tells Moshe when he sees him? What's the first interaction Moses has with God? What does God say to him? Take your damn shoes off. How dare you tread on something so holy, not knowing that it's sacred ground? How are you so blind, Moses? There's always a burning bush. All of creation is aflame. You just don't see it. That's why you tread on it. And the more we embrace this message and spread it, the more the Jewish people will be a light unto the nations. I am telling you right now that the world is desperate for redemption. The world is sick of the money race. The world is sick of the beauty race. The world is sick of the youth race. You guys are so lucky you're young. Wait till you turn 40. Wait till you women around the table hit an age where you become ashamed to tell people your age. That's what you have. That's what you have to look forward to. To feel ashamed of having lived. Like someone that, did you kill, how old are you? It's like asking, did you kill someone? Did you rip off the IRS? Like you're ashamed to say your age. You know, I think that on the dating sites, they say that something like 80% of all the people are lying about their age. Can you imagine have to lie about that? It's one thing, did you kill your mother? And you decide to lie about it because you killed your mother. I get it. I doubt anyone's going to date you if you killed your mother. But you have to lie about that. If we embrace this message and we perpetuate this message, that there is godliness inside us, and that we have to live with that courage, live courageously, that leads to an electrifying, passionate life where you appreciate every blessing every single day, where it doesn't have to be taken away from you, God forbid, for you to feel electrified and excited that you have it. And the Jewish people will become a light unto the nations, because this is a world desperate for redemption. A final word, because I love Israel. Isn't that the story, when you think about it in a more theoretical plane, of the battle between Israel and our Arab brothers and sisters? The Jews have a piece of land that's this big, slightly bigger than this battery. Israel's sides are like a matchbox. And the Jews see so much magic in it. They want to develop it. They don't need to take over Iraq's oil fields. They don't need to take over Saudi Arabia. They don't need to expand to Aleppo or Damascus. This tiny little bit of land, they want to develop it technologically, agriculturally, politically. They're so excited about this tiny, and it was a swamp. But they saw magic. And because they saw magic, they were electrified by it. Is there anything that excites us as much as Israel? I know few things in my life that are as exciting to me as Israel. When I get to Israel, I don't even have to sleep. Honestly, I go like for 2 weeks to my eyes, like all the way in the back of my skull. I'm so tired, but I'm not tired. So we Jews saw this tiny little parcel of land, and it electrified us. Our Arab brothers and sisters saw vastly larger tracts of land. They said, still not enough. We got to get that last little thing called Israel, even though it's the size of this. We're going to fight for 70. We're going to ignore everything we have here. We're not going to develop technologically, agriculturally, politically. Because unless we get that, we got nothing. And isn't that what kind of undermined everything they could have achieved? We saw magic in everything that we had, and they didn't. So thank you all very much. And I am prepared to talk a little bit. We'll have a better format next time where I talk less and you guys talk more. I just need to know if my son-in-law Moshe's waiting. Moshe, is that you?
Someone came at the door.
Can you call him to see? Because I don't want to keep him. He has
Thank
to
you all
take him
for
back to New
coming.
Jersey.
Really, really happy you guys came.